Hey everyone, Matron here, bringing you another StarCraft 2 commentary, this time Game 2 of the Best of 5 series between PPG Bubbles, spawning as the Red Protoss, and his opponent spawning as the Blue Zerg Root Catz. This will be the finals of the Justin TV Invitational, these two players making it through a very strong field, knocking off a ton of players that have placed very high in recent tournaments, DreamHack, MLGs, etc. And finally down to the two players here, as we have a PVZ. In the first game, Bubbles attempted to get a cannon contain against his opponent, but Catz, with a very non-standard counter to that cannon contain, he got a proxy hatch down in Bubbles' base. So I imagine that Bubbles will not be going for any sort of cannon contain again, as it went quite badly for him. He actually even scouted out that hatchery. If you haven't checked out the game, make sure you watch before this one. Don't want to spoil it too much for you. But yeah, the proxy hatch went down by Catz, and then he just flooded his opponent's base with roaches, and he basically reversed the contain, put the Protoss player back on the defensive, was able to macro up a little bit, and then just assaulted the Protoss base without mercy. As we see Bubbles just doing a little bit of poking here with the probe, Catz getting down a very early pool. Looks like he was going for a, I think that was a 7 pool, perhaps an 8 pool there. On Steps of War, Catz does try to go for these kind of extreme builds. Doesn't really like this map, as it is not a very good map for Zerg. Difficult to get up your expansion. It's so close to your opponent. And it looks like he's actually getting a forge up and maybe trying the pylon contained once again. But this time Catz does have these Zerglings out, so they're going to be able to work on these pylons. Bubbles may have to cancel them, but no, it looks like he's going to let them finish, not choosing to place down. No, he is going to cancel one there, so just going to leave the one pylon there, and now he's going to have to defend here, getting up a photon cannon, and this is not going to wall off his ramp, so the Zerglings are going to be able to get in here now, finally walling off with another gateway. So 2 gateways and this cannon. The fast Zerglings from Catz, he's not going to be able to get in here with those, so just backing up, making sure he continues to have map control and that there are no more probes coming out. Positioning this Overlord right by this ramp of Bubbles, and now Bubbles going to have to try to transition, both players actually having to transition away from their starting builds here. Bubbles was hoping to get that cannon contain. Catz was hoping to get a little bit of pressure with those Zerglings, now getting down a relatively early Roach Horn as well. The one thing that that early pool does allow him to do is tech up faster. He can get that queen out, start macroing up, and get down the Roach Warren. Roach is very good against photon cannons, now that they do have that 4 range. As we see Catz poking in here once again. The 2 gateways have finished, so Bubbles creating, or trying to create a zealot here. He needs another pylon. His pylon at the bottom ramp of Catz was taken out. So it looks like he is going to be trying to get up some gas and teching up with a cybernetics core, just like a normal Protoss would, so both players not throwing off too much, sinking a little bit of minerals at the very start of this game into some bad strategies or ineffective strategies, as we see Catz now trying to transition to some roaches, and I wonder if he'll try to get these roaches over to his opponent's base before speed comes up. A lot of times we see that roaches are not good offensive units until they do have that speed, until the layer is up. But Bubbles getting out a number of zealots now, going to try to thin the numbers of Zerglings. Catz does not want to lose these Zerglings at this point, having to pull those back. So again, Bubbles feeling very safe with that photon cannon. It's going to be difficult to get to. He's got these forward zealots as well, pushing Catz back into his base. Catz going to feel very good now with these roaches against those zealots. The roaches do have that armor, and with the 2 attacks of the zealots, they're not going to take very much damage. They also ranged units, so they can take down those zealots, and Bubbles having to pull back to the safety of this cannon. And the way this cannon is positioned, I believe it will be able to attack the roaches if they do try to attack some of these buildings. And Bubbles now chronoing out a Stalker. Stalkers in the early game, sort of the anti-roaches. Before their roach speed, the Stalkers are much faster. They also have this 6 range compared to 4. So this is something Bubbles tried to get out in the first game, getting out Stalkers to counter the roaches. As we see Catz pushing in, trying to get a good angle on this pylon. Another pylon going down just in case the first one depowers all these buildings. Bubbles wants to have a backup here. Now having to pull these zealots. One zealot does go down, a second zealot about a quarter of the health left, so it needs to focus down that last zealot there. Zealot goes down there, And Bubbles just dancing around these buildings, hoping that this cannon can help him a little bit. But at this point, Catz has a nice dominating position. He can come and trap these stalkers. So Catz wants to try to take down these stalkers. Another 5 roaches on the way, but he's got to really dance around the stalkers. Stalkers very quick. Again, with that superior range, looks like Catz going to be losing this one, having to retreat with the 1 roach and not able to reinforce with those other roaches. Just going to keep them in his base a little bit here, and may have to think about expanding, as the early pressure from both players not very effective. Looks like Bubbles has actually blocked himself into the base a little bit here. He's going to have to destroy one of these pylons if he wants to get out of here with a probe. Looks like taking a free Overlord from Catz. If we check the army tab, it looks like that will sidecap Catz, and Bubbles going to work on sidecapping himself here, taking down that pylon. So adding another pylon to replace that, making sure there are 2 powering all these buildings. Again, do not want to depower these gateways. In that first game, Catz did a very good job making sure he was taking down pylons and gateways, really kept the production structures for his opponent at a minimum. Now adding tons of pylons here at the front, making sure that these buildings will always have power, and warping in a number of sentries as well. Sentries very good in the early going with those force fields, able to keep those roaches at bay and really try to divide the early Zerg armies. If we check the income tab, it is 29 harvesters to 19, so that early spawning pool and the early roaches, a lot of minerals invested by Catz, so his economy is just not very good right now compared to Bubbles, who has 30 harvesters now and is working on his own expansion. Catz getting up an expansion here in his natural as well, so shortly both players will be on 2 bases. We see a scouting Zergling coming across the field, and we'll see if he's able to keep this alive. He's a sign of a great player, able to get all the information and keep the Zergling alive, but it looks like he's going to sacrifice that guy, and he will see that there's a lot of units coming for his opponent. If we check the production tab, we see a few more Zerglings and roaches on the way, and now Bubbles pushing in here, but some force fields going down, trying to prevent the roaches from getting a good surround. In fact, really encumbering the movement of those stalkers. A few of them getting stuck behind the force fields, but now throwing down a number, or at least 1 more force field there. Not very well placed. Really like to see a force field on the ramp, prevent the reinforcements coming from Catz in the main. So there it is, going to prevent those Zerglings from getting out. A second one going down, going to really divide up the forces here and try to pick them off one at a time, or one set at a time. And it looks like this natural will be going down if he can get 1 more force field on that ramp. So Catz going to be losing his natural, now getting up lair tech, and maybe getting an in-base hatch as well. So a macro hatch going up, as he did lose this one out of his natural, and now Bubbles in a very strong position. If we check the army tab, 1650 to just 250. And Bubbles in the early going, that cannon contain did not really work for him, but he has been able to recover here, and he's got quite the superior army. He is able to macro up a little bit, get his economy going, and now Catz forced to pull off drones, and this is basically the final death blow for Catz, as all these drones do go down. If we check the unit count, it's down to 4 drones, 4 Zerglings, and there's the GG from Catz. So wow, after the very creative play from Catz in game 1, stopping that cannon contain and sort of reversing the position on his opponent, Bubbles this time abandoned the cannon contain early on, only had the 1 pylon there at the bottom of Catz's ramp, which he allowed to finish, had a very strong defensive position here at the bottom of his own ramp, and then was able to get up an expansion and really just push out off of 4 gates. And Catz economy really took a hit in the early going. Getting down that fast pool, he was not able to do much with that. Getting down the fast roach warren, and then a number of roaches, which without speed were not able to assault the Protoss base with any amount of effectiveness. So this series is tied 1-1. I'll go ahead and cast Game 3 right now. So look forward to seeing you there. Thanks for watching this one. Take care.